Hi, everyone. This is a chapter I deleted from my new novel, How to Build a Time Machine. I cut it out because it wasn't as dark and edgy as the final novel turned out to be. A cross between a Marvel movie meets Buffy the Vampire Slayer with a teenage Doctor Who and a bit of Cobra Kai sprinkled in. I hope you like it. This story is called The Great Learning Food Disaster. Isabel Cruz drummed her fingers on the pristine white countertop of Time Traveler University's tick-tock culinary lab, the soft tap-tap-tap of her nails competing with the whir of quantum ovens and the gentle hum of chronologically stabilized refrigerators. The air smelled like ozone and artificial vanilla, with an undercurrent of what might have been last week's failed attempt at time-traveling tacos, or possibly next week's. It was hard to tell in this place. Blaze, she says, not looking up from the half-assembled gravity remote on her workspace. If you put those neutron-enriched noodles in that chronotron pressure cooker, I'm pretty sure we're all going to die. Blaze Nakamura, 4'9", of pure muscle wrapped in a kiss the temporarily displaced cook apron, jumped and nearly dropped the glowing blue pasta. I know what I'm doing this is going to be my masterpiece. Learning food, one bite and poof, instant kung fu master. That's not how anything works, Isabel mutters, adjusting her tool belt. The familiar weight of her nano-wrench and quantum calibrator pressed against her hips, way more interesting than whatever cooking catastrophe Blaze was mixing up. Also, you scream when you see spiders, so what do you know about kung fu? Not all of us can be naturally gifted at punching things, Isabel. Some of us prefer to express ourselves through the culinary arts. He adds a pinch of what looked suspiciously like powdered theoretical physics textbook to his concoction. Blaze's broad shoulders hunched as he carefully measured out ingredients with atomic precision. Do you know how embarrassing it is to have biceps this huge and still hide behind you every time there's danger? Isabel finally looked up, pushing her safety goggles onto her forehead. You know what's actually embarrassing? That Professor Zhao paired us up for this project when I could be finishing my gravity remote. I'll tell you what this baby will do. She held up the half-finished device, which looked like a TV remote, had gotten into a fight with a Swiss Army knife and lost. It could revolutionize time travel, but no, I'm stuck here watching you try to violate the laws of physics with pasta. The chronotron pressure cooker made a sound like a cat hacking up a hairball. Blaze beamed. It's working. That is definitely not what working sounds like, Isabel says. But Blaze was already adding more ingredients. A dash of temporal spice, last Tuesday's vintage, a sprinkle of neural enhancers that looked suspiciously like glitter. Is that my neutron calibrator? Isabel yelped, recognizing the distinctive blue glow of her favorite tool floating in Blaze's brew. I needed something to spice up the universal flavors, Blaze protested, his usually confident voice rising to a squeak. I'll clean it. You'll what? Isabel launched herself across the counter, tool belt jingling like angry wind chimes. That's a precision instrument, not a soup spoon. In his panic to keep the calibrator away from Isabel, Blaze knocked over a container of chronological stabilizer. The silvery liquid splashed across the quantum pressure cooker, which immediately began to pulse with an ominous rainbow light. Okay, don't panic, Blaze says, definitely panicking. This is fine. Everything's fine. The pressure cooker started to float. That's not fine, Isabel shouts, grabbing for her tool belt. That's the exact opposite of fine. Maybe it's supposed to do that, Blaze suggested weakly. Right before the cooker began to spin, spraying globules of temporarily unstable pasta sauce across the lab. One drop hit a nearby plant, which rapidly evolved into a small tree, then devolved into a fern, then settled on becoming a very confused cactus. Students began diving under their workstations as more sauce flew everywhere. A glob hit the ceiling and opened a wormhole to ancient Rome. A centurion poked his head through, took one look at the chaos, and promptly retreated. Do something, Isabel yells, ducking as a strand of neutron-enriched spaghetti whipped past her head like a radioactive bullwhip. Like what? Blaze crouched behind her, which, given their size difference, looked like a mountain trying to hide behind a traffic cone. I don't know. You're the cooking genius. Turn it off. Right, yes, turn it off. Blaze reached for the pressure cooker's control panel, then yanked his hand back as it sparked. Okay, new plan. Scream and run. New plan, Isabel growls, pulling on her nano wrench. That's when the pressure cooker exploded. The blast knocked them both backward, filling the air with a growing shower of glowing pasta and temporal sauce. Isabel's world turned upside down, literally, as the gravity in the room went haywire. She found herself floating near the ceiling, her tool belt drifting away in pieces. My tools, she wailed. My learning food, Blaze cries, simultaneously watching his creation rain up toward the ceiling in glowing drops. Below them, or above them, depending on your gravitational perspective, the rest of the class was stuck in various states of floating, swimming through the air, or clinging to furniture. Professor Zhao walked in, took one look at the anti-gravity chaos, the Roman wormhole, and the evolutionary cactus, and just turned around and walked right back in. Well, Isabel says, crossing her arms as she slowly rotated in midair, at least now I understand exactly how to test my gravity remote. Once I rebuild it from scratch again. Blaze, doing slow somersaults nearby, brightened. So you're not mad? Oh no, I'm furious, Isabel assured him. But also, this is kind of amazing. Your learning food didn't work, but you did just accidentally invent anti-gravity sauce, which I think is the secret ingredient I need to make my gravity remote finally work. I did? Blaze's face lit up, then immediately fell. I mean, I did, but I have no idea how I did it. Lucky for you, Isabel says, managing to snag a floating wrench. You happen to know the best engineer at Time Traveler University, even if she's currently upside down. Does this mean you'll help me figure out how to do the recipe? Blaze asked hopefully. A glob of sauce floated past, causing a brief window into next Thursday to appear. Through it, they can see themselves high-fiving in Principal Wonderall's office. Yeah, Isabel grinned, already mentally calculating the physics involved. I guess it does, but first, we need to get everyone down from the ceiling and maybe close that wormhole before the entire Roman army decides to invade our cooking class. On it, Blaze says confidently, then immediately squeaked as another spider floated past. He tried to hide behind Isabel again, which he forgot they were floating and sent them both spinning across the room like a human pinwheel. Some things never change, Isabel sighs, but she was smiling as she pulled out her backup nano wrench. All right, let's fix this mess. But Blaze, next time you want to invent something impossible, maybe start with anti-gravity cookies. They're smaller when they explode. As they finally managed to get to their feet back on the ground, mostly, some students would continue to experience random bouts of floating for the next week. Isabel couldn't help but think that maybe, just maybe, being paired with Blaze wasn't the worst thing that could have happened. Sure, her gravity remote was in pieces, her quantum calibrator would never be the same, and she was pretty sure that Cactus was now sentient and working on a philosophy degree. But they discovered something new. Besides, she thought as she watched Blaze trying to apologize to the cactus in three different temporal variations of Latin, at least class wasn't boring anymore. The next day, when they returned to clean up the last of the mess, they found a note from Professor Zhao. Next time, please restrict temporal anomalies to designated areas. Also, patent pending on the anti-gravity sauce. Splits credit assigned to both of you. P.S. The cactus has officially tested out a freshman year. Blaze and Isabel looked at each other, then at the note, then at their new sentient cactus classmate, who was somehow wearing glasses and reading Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. So, Blaze says slowly, about those anti-gravity cookies. Isabel sighs and reached for her tool belt. Just promise me one thing, anything. This time, we use a regular soup spoon instead of my quantum calibrator. Deal, Blaze agrees immediately, though how do you feel about using your temporal phase shifter instead? The look Isabel gave him could have frozen time itself. Blaze raised his hands in surrender, then immediately ducked behind her as the philosophical cactus sneezed and briefly turned into a quantum-entangled rosebush. Just another day at Time Traveler University. At least the homework was never late, though it did occasionally arrive last week.